Hello, welcome to the Farmers Branch Chamber of Commerce Chamber Chat. I'm Executive Director Grace Spees, and as one objective of our chamber is to be the voice of small business to government. So we're here with our District 2 Farmers Branch City Council candidate, Nic Rady. Welcome to the show, Nic. How are you?
Great, Grace. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So we're going to kind of just open this up for you a little bit to give us a couple minutes on what is your platform as it specifically relates to advocating for business and economic recovery.
Sure, Grace. Well, so District 2 is vastly residential, but that doesn't mean that we don't have the rest of Farmers Branch to talk about. As you know, about 76% of Farmers Branch is actually funded in tax dollars by our business community. And our daytime population is somewhere around 4 to 5 times higher because of the businesses that are in Farmers Branch. They're very vital to our success. They're very important to what we do as a city. And, we want people to love to work and play here in Farmers Branch. So my candidacy has been basically a voice for the people, and that also includes businesses. Business owners, they live here. They don't just, have their businesses here. And business owners, you guys put a lot of what our community is about. People come to the city because of some of our businesses. And so we need to make sure that everybody has a voice, not necessarily a voting voice, but a voice of what is the direction that the city is going to take, what is the direction of the things the city is going to do, and ensure that we're getting a consensus of an idea of where everything is going so that it is going to be for the betterment of the community as a whole, both residential and commercial.
So for those who don't know, why don't you give us a quick map aerial view? What does District 2 include?
Effectively, we're talking about Valwood, Brookhaven Club Drive south between Josie, Marsh, down to Valley View.
Okay. Awesome. So what have you done up to this point that you feel qualifies you to represent the residents and the business community as a council member?
Great question. Well, first and foremost, as most people know, I'm a physicist by training and education. And what that effectively translates into is problem-solving skills. It's not about knowing the solution. It's about figuring out what is the best solution given the parameters that are coming towards you and asking the questions you need in order to figure out what that best solution looks like. Currently, I work in a field, very specialized field, selling a very unique device for measuring things for reverse engineering quality control purposes. Some of my big customers here in Dallas are people like Bell Helicopter, Lockheed Martin, Triumph Aerospace, and things where you got to know what you're doing in a lot of different areas in order to talk to a lot of different people to help them solve very complicated problems. Inside of the city itself, I have worked with the Citizens Bond Committee, and that was a very unique thing we did here in the city of Farmers Branch back in 2016. Went out there as a community of 17 people that talked to the residents and said, hey, what kind of things do we want to see? Where do we want to go with the community? Where do we want to spend money and actually take out debt in order to fund things that are going to help us out here as a city for the next 10, 20 years? And we looked through that list of projects, analyzed everything, gave recommendation to city council. And for the first time in no one really can tell me the exact number of decades that we passed a bond inside of Farmers Branch for something other than streets or public safety. We ended up passing 3 bonds that the people of the city all overwhelmingly said yes to. It was a 60-40 roughly vote on all 3 of those separate issues. Since then, as a matter of fact, this summer I actually led an issue where there was some debt that was about to be issued for our city that many people in the city said, wait a minute, why don't we get a vote on this? Most debt you have to vote on, because if you're taking debt, it's not just about this initial time frame, it's about the next 20 to 30 years. And so I actually led a little petition that went through. 5% of the registered voters in Farmers Branch signed that petition. We turned it into the city secretary's office and forced the council to take that to a ballot vote if they were going to issue that debt, because it was that important for me to have the voice of the people be heard rather than the council just deciding on what they thought was a project that they wanted to issue without the input from the citizens.
It sounds like you've been really involved in the city recently and over the years. What other committees, boards, areas have you served in the city, whether it's in the governmental sphere, business sphere, or just personally?
Sure. I did do a couple of years. I was with the Citizens on Patrol and also with the Parks and Recreation Department. I was on the board for them. Those were two really great things that committed to. Unfortunately, Citizens Patrol is on hiatus right now because of the things that are going on in the world. I'm a very active member of my church, and I'm a parishioner over at Mary Immaculate, which is in my district, as a matter of fact, and try to do anything that I can with them wherever my expertise is useful to help them be a better community, to help serve the parishioners there.
Good deal. So tell me, what other parts of the platform are you particularly passionate about as it pertains to our city and also the business community?
Well, I believe we talked about this story before when we had the forum with the chamber. What I have really found that's very interesting is the smallest little detail that you never even think about can actually hinder a business, or more importantly, help businesses succeed in your city that other cities, they don't succeed as well. The one that really just blew me away was my daughter. She's 4 years old. She loves gymnastics. And I was talking with the owner of one of her gyms. And I said, hey, I've noticed there's a lot of gyms in Farmers Branch. And for it being such a small area with a very small community, why Farmers Branch? What makes Farmers Branch so unique for gymnasiums? And she looked at me and said, the parking regulations. And when we talked about that in depth, it was our city was able to recognize that a gymnastics place doesn't have to have as many parking spaces per 1,000 square feet as something like a retail area. And so they make accommodations for that based on the type of business. And it was so mind-blowing because I believe that there are currently 6 active gymnastics gyms in Farmers Branch, which is only 12 square miles with a population of just shy of 40,000 people right now. To me, that's the density of that is just unbelievable. And so for all those places to come and find our little city to be part of because of the parking regulations. And so part of my platform is, and if you look at all my literature, you look at my yard signs, it has my email address, it has my personal cell phone number on there. And the reason it has those is I want someone that recognizes as something as small as a parking regulation that's hindering a business to be able to call me up and say, hey, Nick, here's this thing. Here's a thought. I want to throw it to you. I want to see if combining the things with other stuff you've been hearing, if this is something that should be addressed or absolutely should be addressed just because on itself it is a thing that is important to address. And let's go and make it a better place for the society. What I don't want to be is I don't want to be a council representative that is more of a dictator. I have ideas, but I want most of the things that I do not to come from me, but to come from the community, from the residents, and from the society at large, and say, this is what's important. These are the things that are helping and hindering us. And let's make sure that we go through and do what is going to help rather than the things that are going to hinder. And that's probably my biggest platform piece that I am running on.
Well, I must say, in the conversations I've had with you, I mean, it sounds like you're more intelligent about some of these things than even I am, leading the chamber. And so I really just appreciate you do seem to have an attention to detail that, is, I don't have a word for it, but, again, I could just definitely tell that there's a level of intelligence that you ask good questions, I think is part of it. And you're not afraid to ask those good questions.
Well, Grace, I'll tell you this. I only have a few years ahead of you. and I've seen you interact with your businesses that you work with, and you're going to get exactly there because you do ask those same kind of questions. And it's very important to ask those kind of questions. I will tell you this, the reason that I probably asked those questions is I started working, unofficially working, at a roller rink when I grew up at about the age of 10. And I couldn't afford to pay for admission into the roller rink. So I said, hey, can I go do something in order to come back next time for free? And the owners of the roller rink, they actually became my godparents. I love those guys to death. And that's actually how I started realizing the importance of business, because I started off as basically the janitor, and I worked my way there until I went off to college, doing anything and everything. Even the months that, I was a troubled teen and, maybe I was grounded for the weekend, I still went to the roller rink, because it wasn't just going there to skate, it was going there to work. And the thing that I started realizing, watching that roller rink and seeing all of the things, the owner was the janitor. And I'm sure there's many business people out there that are going to say, yep, I've scrubbed a toilet in the last week because whatever. And it's the way that the world is, because when you put your heart and your soul into a business, not only do you do everything to make sure that business succeeds, but you also want to share those things with other people. And so no matter where I go, even if I go to the coffee place that I go to and I'm talking to the manager there, I might ask him a quick little question about something I see and say, hey, I noticed you guys did this different. Why'd you do that different? Because they're doing it, they're living it. And when they share the information with you, there's no telling what kind of thing you might learn that might change the way you just do something personally in your life, or do something you do different in your business. So yeah, it's just asking those questions that are a lot of fun and getting a lot of great responses.
Well, I recently took up roller skating again, so that's fun. We need to.
Oh wow, that's great.
Do we even have a roller skating rink in Farmers Branch?
We do. As a matter of fact, there is a gentleman here in District 2, Luther Bernstein. He owns a roller skating rink right off of 35. I want to say it's in Louisville is where it's located.
Well,
so don't ask me the name of it. I think it's Interskate. Something like that. Interstate Skate. Something along those lines. But Luther Bernstein is the owner of that roller rink, and I have known about him since I was probably 12 years old. So it's kind of a small world to now come to the city he lives in, not even realizing it, in the same district he lives in, and asking for his vote to be the representative for him at his city.
Somebody cue Disney's It's a Small World after all.
Exactly. I should have had you have that lined up for us.
Good deal. Yeah, I think that that's important in recognizing, that as a true leader, you do, really the best leaders wear all the hats, and not above, any level of position, and from being janitor, sweeping the floors, cleaning a toilet, to yes, playing CEO, because I think you develop an empathy as you get to move through those different components of an organization.
Mm-hmm.
So what else do you have to share with the constituents, specifically of District 2, of Farmers Branch at large? And I'm going to add my own little plug here shamelessly. I think that local government is so important and so key. And there may be people who tune into this or see this who are outside the Farmers Branch area. But, I think generally, with the exception of, this last president, generally, people move up from a local place of, government elected official. They go to a county level, a state level, and then a national level. So whether or not you're their district candidate, I think that it's important that we all engage at a local level. So anyways, feel free to expound upon some of that.
No, I will absolutely expand upon that. You have to remember, I put my name in this hat before March happened. And the reason for it was really basically this. There's no level of government that affects our day-to-day life, our business, and our residents, our personal life, more than our local government. I've known that for a long time. I've seen that. And if nothing comes from this thing that's going on right now more than this, I hope people will understand how important it is to know who our local representatives are, from our school board and council to our county up through to our president. The people here in District 2, I live with these people. They are my next door neighbor. They can come knock on my door and I'll greet them with open arms. You cannot do that at the White House. Even though it's the people's house, we can't go in there and shake hands with President Trump and say, hey, thank you for doing a great job, or curse him for doing something that we just couldn't stand he did, right? But the people here at this level, at our county level and our city level, they're the ones that can, as we've seen, overnight change the very existence of the way that we live day to day to day. And it is the least voted on positions, but it's the ones that should mean the most to us. So that's what I hope we all learn from that. To the people of District 2, I want to say, I want to be your representative because I want to be that voice to give you the voice in the council. We can't have all 40,000 residents in the council making decision day in and day out. And there are those things that we just got to have a representative for that we trust and that we can give some input into and let them go do their thing. There are the other things where we hope that that representative knows where their limitation is, and they go back out to that community and they get the input and they get it properly, and they don't just go to a small group of people they know, but across that broad spectrum. One of the things that I'm planning on doing once elected is I'm going to have a group of probably 5 to 8 people I want to meet with once a month. And there are going to be some people in there that disagree with everything I say. There are going to be people that own businesses, and there are going to be people that are maybe just a stay-at-home or retired. But I need to have a broad idea of people to, as I call it, spaghetti. And I do this all the time, even at work. I'll have an idea, and I want to see if it's an idea that sticks and is done, or it's an idea that drops and I need to put a little bit more thought and effort into it. And I'll throw this spaghetti against the wall, or the person that I'm talking to, and sometimes they will say something that I never thought about, and it'll change the perspective just enough to go, here's a better idea, right? And so even as a representative of this district, I want to make sure that I've got my spaghetti committee to make sure that the ideas are well thought out, that are good things that the community needs and wants, and that they're finished ideas and that they're not just not quite right. To the people of the business community, you guys run the economy. You guys, I mean, for the longest time, Farmers Branch was begging for grocery stores. And it took a council, 10 years ago or so, 15 or 10, 12 years ago, to come in here and do some things in order to get a grocery store that people were somewhat excited about. Some people love or hate the Walmart, but we got it in. We had a grocery store. We had the Kroger's, and it's turned into the El Rancho, and we have that. And there's talk over there on the west side. People want a grocery store over there. And there's a lot of work that you got to do, because you can't just say as a government, come on in and we need this. No, you've got to do things that make it appealing to a business to put the blood, the sweat, and the tears that they put into it, sacrifice, to go into a place and say, yeah, I think I can succeed there. And it's not just saying do it, it's talking with those people, figuring out what they need. And that's, it's what we got to have. We can't have dictators that are saying, well, we got to have this thing. We've got to have people that are willing to go out there and figure out, what is it going to take? What changes might have to be made from a stance that you really are strong about, to say, okay, maybe that's not the right action. We've got to do something different in order to make this thing happen. It's a give and take. It's continuous give and take. It's never going to be set in stone. It's never going to be a complete one-way street. It's always asking, always looking, always changing, and figuring out where's the right perfect combination for today to get the things done that need to get done. So, what's it going to take to get a grocery store on that west side like all our residents over there want? I don't know the answer yet. But put me in the right position and we'll start talking and figure out what it's going to take.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. I think people don't fully appreciate the ripple effect, that is involved in a business. And especially, just kind of speaking to general population of, and I'm going to bring up a conversation Nick and I were having just prior to hopping on here about, I don't have a pencil handy, but what it takes to make a pencil. Who has to cut down the wood in order, for the wood, who has to mine the graphite and then assemble the metal pieces, the rubber eraser, something as simple as a pencil. And same thing, something quote unquote as simple as a grocery store isn't necessarily simple. But, yeah, sure, I live on the west side and it would be nice to have a grocery store that's within walking or rollerblading distance. But, and there's that ripple effect of, well, not only does that benefit me, it creates jobs,
right.
And when we look at any company, whether it's, something as small as a coffee shop, a large corporation, these are the companies that, our neighbors, their sons and daughters may have their first job, and, earn their first paycheck. And I think we all have that memory of our first job, our first paycheck, and the values and the things that we learn from that. So just the ripple effect that, any component of business, whether it's a small, medium, large size business, a large chain like a Kroger or, an independent family owned and operated idea, there's so many different dynamics in which it impacts the community, not just the business owner, but the residents who are the end users of the Chipotle, of the Starbucks, of, Nuevo Leon, or a grocery store, you name any of these things. And so I think it's just really important that we continue these conversations because, yes, we could look at this, we are a heavily corporate business community, but that also means that, we've got jobs for our residents. We've got, again, products for them to purchase and buy. And so it touches every component of life, to have good business in your city. So I think that's just something neat that, Farmers Branch has. Most people don't, know the gem that is the city of Farmers Branch, but it really does have a dynamic business environment, which allows us to support some really cool city facilities, events, functions. So Thank you for sharing on that. And
yeah, absolutely. And I looked it up. It's I Pencil is the name of the essay I mentioned to you by Nic Rady. And anybody who is interested in a 6-minute essay on probably my summary of my stance on economics, you can look up that essay. It's a fantastic one.
Why don't you give us the 60-second version of it? You broke it down for me pretty quickly.
Yeah, so I mean, think about a pencil. It's made of 4 parts. It's the wood, the graphite, that little metal null, whatever they call that thing, and then the rubber eraser. But when you go and you think about each one of those components, how easy is it to get the wood? Well, you've got to have the trees to chop down, but then you got to use the chainsaw in order to do it. He even goes in and thinks about the coffee that the people drink on their break in between, cutting downs of the trees, and the mill and all of that machinery. You're not going to use your own chainsaw that you created from scratch. You're going to go out there and you're going to have it pre-made and you're going to buy that thing. And all of these different components that stack up to create something as simple as a 5-cent pencil. It is the miracle that is what humanity has created. I mean, it makes you go and say, whenever you go and you buy anything, and you say, what all did it take to make that thing? And that I'm able to work for maybe 2 minutes of my life to pay for this one little thing. And I don't have to do all of the work that goes into it. There was another gentleman out there. I can't remember this one off the top of my head what this little essay was that he wrote, but he wrote a little thing explaining he wanted to make a BLT. a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. So he raised a hog and he planted the wheat and ground up the wheat and he planted the tomatoes and everything. And it came down to where if he did all of this, it was somewhere around $2,500 for him to make a BLT. Right? So we can go over to, one of our wonderful restaurants here in town, the Old City Cafe. That's one that I go to at least once a week. And I order a BLT and it's maybe $8 with fries and a drink, right? And, a few more dollars to tip the lady. I'm out maybe $15, right? I'm not out $2,500. So all of these things that we are able to do because of this world that we have created as mankind, it amazes me every single day. And it's actually something I was thinking a lot about, with my little 4-year-old daughter. I was thinking about the little play sets where you've got the hospital and you've got this little, barber shop over here and the little eatery over there. And, they got these little components. You can't forget about the school, right? And you got all these components and they work together. And before this disaster happened in March, I was thinking, there's no way to stop the amazingness that is humanity. Well, we saw it stop for a little bit, but thank goodness we're back on track. But yeah, it's
what's great is the greatness of humanity even shown through that. We got innovative, and chose to move forward. So
yes, it is. But all these components and how they're so intertwined, and you don't even realize how intertwined they are. That maybe there's just that one little coffee shop that only is in existence because it's near maybe the police station and the schoolhouse, and half their people are the police officers and the teachers that come in there in the morning, right? And that's most of what they serve. But you take one of those little components away, no longer can that business be there because they don't have it. Or if you take that business away and then all those people are going, well, I guess I'm going to have to, and they're going more places to get this coffee, and the time savings maybe just from that one little business being strategically located between these two little components in our society. It's all those little things that are just so fascinating. And I don't know, call me a nerd or whatever, but sometimes I literally will just sit back there and I'll have those thought experiments about one little aspect of society and how all that stuff just does what it does to be that thing that it is. And it's amazing that it happens. It's even more amazing that it happens without a director. There's not that one person that's controlling everything. It just happens because it happens.
It's really insightful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so many pieces of society that, again, it really is the collaborative, and same things right with our body. I can't say to my hand, I don't need you today, and toss it aside, and, realizing and understanding that each function, each part, we have whatever 206 bones in our body, but for whatever reason, we need every single one of them. And if you break even your smallest little toe, it's very painful when that bone is not working. And it's felt by the entire body, even that one remote rogue piece that seems unimportant, like the pinky toe. You definitely, it definitely makes itself known when the coffee table gets in the way.
Yes. And, going back to government, it's very, very critical to see it there. Even here in our small little city of Farmers Branch, we've got a council of 5 people, right? One of the things that we have made sure that we don't do is that we don't let those 5 people go and talk amongst themselves secretly and do things. We want to know what they're doing out there in the open, which is fantastic. And by doing that kind of a process, we're able to have the perspective of these 5 representatives come together, because not one person is going to know the right answer. Never. And so these 5 people, ideally working together and collaborating to come up with the best solution and to be executed by the city, it's the best way to do pretty much anything. It's why most businesses that are larger than maybe 30, 40, 50 people, they've got a group that's leading that business. You've got a board of directors, and you've got a CEO to go out there and execute everything. But you've got that board of directors, and they're your spaghetti wall, right? You have your CEO come in there, and CEO throws out ideas and talks about things, and that board of directors synthesize it and figures out what's the right idea that's done. So it's really interesting that's the best way that our society works, is in collaboration, all together, harmoniously coming together some way. I don't know how it does it. It just does it. And it's one of the most beautiful things that, just brings me to awe whenever I think about.
Well, thank you, Nic, for all your feedback, all your insights, for, showing up with us today. I mean, for you, for any candidate out there, for anybody who's out there voting, I really think that we do need to bring humility back to the table. And something I just spoke on this weekend was honor. And, how do we, number one, stay humble ourselves, and number two, esteem those who are in authority with honor, and esteem those around us with honor, so that we can be open and humble to the feedback that they provide.
Yeah.
Like you said, earlier about your spaghetti committee, of one person may say one thing that can shift your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes, a mature individual to be able to humble themselves and say, hey, you know what? I hadn't thought of that. Maybe my idea isn't that great.
Right.
And I'm just going to chime in, like, from a business component. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Google, I think it's called the X team.
No, I've not.
So they work in coordination, obviously, with the company Google, but they'll take, so that Google has a huge development team where they may, and there's a TED talk out there on this, but where they may be creating like hot air balloons or, satellites in order to provide Wi-Fi to remote areas of Africa. And the Google X team is responsible for finding every way that idea will not work. Like, it is their job to basically destroy, ruin, wreck, find the holes in any plan or idea. And I think, again, we have to be cautious that we don't let, too many negative, cynical people, but at the same time, that's what I think makes Google great. And when they do invent and create something, they're looking for, how is this going to not work? How do we make better? And to have a team who is specifically, I suppose, in some level cynical, or like the problem solvers who are seeking to find the errors within something, is again, can be a real positive thing when utilized in the right way within a community. So you'd probably be really interested in the Google X team after.
Yeah, I've got some homework, so.
All right, I'll look up the pencil, and you can look up the Google X. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. I'll double check, but there's a TED talk out there on it. There's a TED talk on everything.
That's true. There is, isn't there?
That's a fact. So I'm gonna let you go, but thank you, Nic. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate your time. And while he's still on here, I'm just gonna say, for everybody, we are hosting our other District 2 candidate, I believe, this Thursday. So would love for you guys to be able to hear the insights from both of them. And early voting has opened as of today, Tuesday, October 13th. So I think, everybody out there, we strongly encourage you to get out and vote.
Yes.
It may or may not be too late to register, but if you need to, votetexas.gov/register. Please do make sure that you get out and you vote for your local, your county, your state, your city, your national officials. And if you have any questions, if you have any great business stories that you would like to share or be featured on our chamber chat, you can submit an inquiry at our website, farmersbranchchamber.org. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Thursday.